along with Emoja. Just want to introduce yourself.
My name is Samantha, just repping Emoja.
I'm Tony, I'm the president of the Emoja.
And we felt it was really important to talk about this issue that's going on here in San Diego, the city of San Diego. Penal Code 182.5 came out of Prop 21. So we're going to hear really a lot of information, how it can affect not only you, but your loved ones. And we need to stand up and start saying this is not right. You know, our communities, we are the community within the community, and it's important that we start voicing our voices. You want to talk some more?
And you're here today because us as Emoja, we get involved with a lot of community works, and one of the things that we had was Aaron come out to our class and speak about this penal code that has negatively impacted his life and dozens of others. And so what we want to do is get the word out to you guys so that you're aware of what's going on in the community and how the law and the legal system is being used to put a lot of people, incarcerate a lot of young men. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. And so right here we have Aaron and Brandon, and they're going to talk a little bit more about the penal code.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
My name is Aaron Harvey. Today I'm going to just talk to you guys about a proposition, a penal code, my life, the effects of it, and things that have been transpiring in my life since July 17th of last year. Let's start off with Proposition 21. Proposition 21 was voted in 2000, California. It was a proposition focused in on sending minors to minors being able to be charged as adults. But then it dropped the law where they can charge them as an adult from the age of 16 to 14. So you can send a 14-year-old kid to prison if you wanted to. In that proposition, there was a law, Penal Code 182.5, have nothing to do with minors. That law states that if you are a documented gang member, any crime that the gangs commit, whether you've had knowledge of it or not, you can be held to answer to those charges. So they say you have to promote, further, assist, or benefit any crime, and they can charge you with it. So here comes July 17th, 2014. I'm walking out of my house. I live in Las Vegas, by the way, studying real estate. I'm walking out of my house and I run into the U.S. Army. Machine guns, rifles, dogs, helicopters, the whole nine. Get on the ground, hands in the air, I don't know what's going on. They arrest me, they tell me I'm wanted in California for 9 murders, right? Exactly, yeah. So, you know, I didn't really take nothing of it. I thought, you know, you got the wrong guy. So anyway, I go to jail. I spent 1 month in the county jail in Las Vegas. They ended up extraditing me to California. California, they tell me I'm wanted for a conspiracy to commit 9 shootings. I'm held on a $1.1 million bail, and I spent the last 7 months in the county jail. I don't have a criminal record. I've been stopped by the police about, being nice, I say 50 plus times, but I believe it's probably in the hundreds. There was never any tickets given. There was never any disturbances. Again, I wasn't arrested. I don't have a criminal record, but just mere stops in my neighborhood. My neighborhood is Lincoln Park. My family moved in the Lincoln Park community in the 50s. Logan Avenue, both of my grandparents moved down Logan Avenue. My parents met when they were 9. They've been together since they were 14. They've been married for 30 years, and I'm one of 5 kids. I've had multiple different jobs. Emergency medical technician, Caltrans, Department of Transportation, managed restaurants, I've managed Targets, I've done it all. But again, with these stops that I've had, just mere stops in my neighborhood, the police have documented me as a gang member, right? So they documented me off 2 stops. One when I was 17 years old, standing in front of my grandmother's house, was with another individual who they consider documented, but we don't know why he was documented. I strike 1 against me. 13 months later, I'm standing across the street at my other grandmother's house with another individual. Again, he's documented. I strike 2. At 18 years old, I'm a documented gang member. I don't know why. I don't know that I'm a documented gang member until I'm 26 years old and I'm looking at 56 years of life in prison. As of yesterday, the charges were dropped on me, so now I'm no longer looking at these. My reality from July 17th until yesterday was life in prison. I want to talk about the gang documentation policies. There's 9 different criteria how a person can be documented as a gang member, right? So pretty much, as I look around in the room, I can document every single one of you guys as a gang member, right? So they say based on the color you're wearing, based on a police stop of a neighborhood, if you're in the picture throwing up a certain sign, whatever they narrate that sign means, that sign can mean anything. But if they narrate it as a gang sign, pretty much every sign can be narrated as a gang sign. That's another one. I don't know all the different criteria. We're trying to pull it up now, but if we can get it pulled up, I want to read off these 9 criteria, and if you meet any one of them, I want you to raise your hand. And I guarantee you, at the end of these 9 criteria, everybody in this classroom will be raising their hand. There you are. You taking pictures with me. That's what.
That's one.
So again, going back to the case, the district attorney says, we know Mr. Harvey had nothing to do with these 9 shootings. We know that he didn't facilitate, assist, promote, further any of this. We're pretty much sure he didn't even have knowledge that these crimes even took place. But because we have him documented as a gang member, we can charge him with these crimes, right? So there's 15 of us on this case. It's 33 total. They got a group of Lincoln Park and they got a group of 59 Grams, right? So then my attorneys asked, well, how many documented gang members do you have from Lincoln Park? He said we have 543 people documented from Lincoln Park. He said if he wanted to, he could have went and arrested 543 people and put them on this case, and they all looking at life in prison, right? But he chose us 15. So you guys know about the mass incarceration, things you guys are familiar with Jim Crow laws back in the day. It's just a revolving door. Proposition 47 was passed on November 3rd, right? Felony possessions of narcotics got dropped down to a misdemeanor. Thousands of people were released from prisons, county jails. We were in there actually. I had 172 people in my dorm, November 2nd. November 3rd, we had 43 people. The jails were empty. Proposition 47, they lose money. You gotta lay off sheriffs, you have to lay off police officers, everything. So you come with Proposition 21, where the district attorney states 543 people could be locked up on one case. That's one neighborhood, right? They could go and annihilate each community across the nation. This law has been on the books for 15 years. Nobody's ever touched it. There's 58 district attorneys in the state of California. 15 years. No district attorney has ever went after this. It's an overstretch of the law, unconstitutional. But Bonnie Dumanis, it's her test case. This is what she says. She goes on the record and says, this is our test case. They wanted to use us as a model to be set throughout the state. And everybody knows when California adopts something that goes throughout the nation.
Yep.
Let me see. I don't write these things down. I kind of just talk. So I might be a little everywhere. So again, with the Proposition 47 being given to us to the people, they come around and they wrap up with Proposition 21 to fill the prisons and stuff back up. Now, San Diego, Southeast San Diego, 3rd lowest crime rate in San Diego, right? PB has a higher crime rate than us. Los Angeles is the 6th safest city in America. There we go. Los Angeles, 6th safest city in America. But from the ages of 16 to 24, black males, nearly half of them are documented as gang members. So if this would have passed as of yesterday, they would have been able to go to Los Angeles and wipe out almost half of the black population from the ages of 16 to 24. So I urge you guys that this isn't really a black issue. This is a people issue. I looked at the immigration reform, right? If you're not a naturalized citizen and you're documented as a gang member, they don't even need due process to just deport you. So if they can document you without due process, we can get you out of here. you know? So it's not black, it's not just about Latinos, it's not just about the age, it's a people thing. And if they can take the rights of the people that aren't of your ethnicity, then they're gonna eventually come after you also. Martin Neil Mueller, right? I believe was his name. He has a quote that says, right, well, let me give you a little history on who he is. He was a German priest during Hitler's control of Germany. And he only spoke out against the Nazis when the Nazis wanted to control the Lutheran churches. It was okay that everything else that they were doing. So he spoke out against that. They put him in prison for 10 years. While he was in prison, he has a quote that says, they came after the socialists. I did nothing because I wasn't a socialist. They came after the unionists. I did nothing because I wasn't a unionist. They came after the Jews. I did nothing because I wasn't a Jew. But then they came after me, and there was nobody left to fight with me, fight for me. So I say that because it might not be at your front doorstep today, but if you don't do anything about it now, because there is 18 men right now that's still on this case and fighting. Actually, they go before the judge today. They're in front of the judge as we speak. It's not at your front doorstep now, but it will be at your front doorstep later. So this is the future. This is the politicians, the doctors, the lawyers, the decision makers of the future, right? So we have to do things now so those things can stop down the road, and it doesn't have to get to you or your brothers or your cousins or things like that in that nature. Now, I want to go back to this documentation thing, right? So subject has been arrested or known, and it doesn't even have to get arrested, it can be stopped. So they even kind of fib on their own policies, right? So subject has been arrested or along with a known gang member. All right, so has anybody been stopped with a gang member before? Or not even a gang member, somebody that they might even consider to be a gang member, right? Subject has been identified as a gang member.
So, and a stop doesn't even need to be pulled over, detained, anything, right? It could
No, a
be,
stop-
hey, how are you doing today?
Yeah, and the contact, they say you need 3 contacts to be documented. I was documented off 2, right? But they can go on your Facebook, and that's a contact.
Yep.
They can go on your Facebook, see you with a color, like this, a hat, or whatever, and document you. There's no due process, they don't have to let you know. Again, I was documented at 18, I didn't know until I was 26. It's kind of like the Scarlet Letter in a sense. You guys know about the Scarlet Letter? Right? But this is even kind of worse than the Scarlet Letter in a sense, because at least when you're wearing the Scarlet Letter, at least you know. You know, you have it on you, you know. So I'm walking around as a documented gang member and I didn't even know, right? And they say it's okay to send people to prison for life for being a documented gang member. So then I remember, well, I think back to where it was okay to lynch black people back in the day, and their justification for it was we were the N-word, right? And it was okay, and they got away with it. And then we go to the 20th, 21st century, and it's okay to send black men, or just men, to jail, period, for life because they're documented gang members. Just see the correlation or whatever. So we got Brandon here. I want to let him tell his story a little bit. Brandon, Tiny Dude, Duncan, and then we'll open it up for discussion or whatever. And if you guys have any questions.
All right, so my name is, he said Brandon Tiny Dude, whatever you want to call me, Brandon. Aaron kind of gave you he kind of laid out what the whole 182.5 thing is about. I'm going to kind of give you the guideline on like the devastating effects that it has on like the family. You know what I mean? So, okay, so basically, he's run down on what happened. I'm at home one night, wake up, get ready to go to work. Say it's about 4 in the morning, so I get up, start getting my stuff together. I hear a whole bunch of talking outside. I tell my girlfriend, because I fell asleep on the couch that night watching TV, say, hey, you hear all those voices outside? She's like, I don't hear anything. I said, well, it's a whole bunch of people outside. I said, nah, man, go back to sleep, you're tripping. I said, now I got to get ready for work anyway, so I just want to continue on, whatever. So I was like, but before I do, I'm going to go out here and see what's outside. So I open the door. When I open the door, it's get down. They got, I'm talking about big assault rifles, everything. The police piled into my house. They put me down on my knees, and I'm like, what's going on? Don't worry about it. We'll tell you in a minute. Who are you looking for? Are you Brandon Duncan? Yeah, that's me. Okay, well, that's what we're looking for. Like, all right, cool. So have me handcuffed, they handcuff my girlfriend, they handcuff her mother, and then they run into the room where her son is asleep at. I take it, he's 11 years old. So she's hysterical, she's crying, she's going like, please don't run in there with your guns out, my son is in there, I want you to shoot my son. So they go in there anyway, they take him out, they bring us all out. He has on a no t-shirt, shorts, no socks, and they have him just walking outside like that. So as I'm walking outside, I look back at my girlfriend because I'm oblivious to what's going on. I look back at my girlfriend and I asked her, I said, did you do something? I know I ain't did nothing. And then she looked at me and was like, no, did you do something? Nah, but so, you know, they take me, whatever. And I'm asking her, you know, where am I going? Because when they came, they identified themselves as the federal, it's FBI. So I'm like, well, okay, I guess I'm going to the feds. And they was like, well, don't worry about it. What do you mean don't worry about it? You have me in handcuffs. I can't know where I'm going. I don't know what's going on. I was like, well, don't worry about it. Somebody will talk to you in a minute. So as they go through their little process, I see a San Diego police car pull up. I'm like, oh, so I'm going to the county jail, I guess? And they said, yeah, that's where you're going to go. I'm like, oh, cool. So I get in the car. I know I ain't done nothing, so I'm not worried about anything. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I just tell my girlfriend, hey, call my grandmother, tell her to come bail me out of jail. All right. So we go down we get down right here to this little big blue building. And as I'm in there, the detective walks up to me and says, hey, do you want to talk? I'm like, I don't have anything to talk to you about. He's like, you may want to talk to me. I said, why? He said, because you're being charged with murder. Like, murder? I ain't murdered nobody. He's like, yeah, okay, I do want to talk to you because I want to know what's going on. So we go up to the thing. Immediately he starts talking about my music. Well, you know, the music is whatever. I'm like, okay, what does it have to do with anything? My music, like really? And he says, well, but hold on, though, Brandon. We know you have nothing to do with the crimes that were, you know, that happened. We know you didn't have anything to do with these shootings. We know you didn't have nothing to do with these, all the killings, the murders. We know you didn't have anything to do with it, but we think you know something about it. And because you know something about it, you can be held liable based on your music because you're talking about it in your music. But if you give us, you know, something, you could walk out right now and go home. I'm like, well, wait a minute, what do you mean give you something? I don't know anything, and I'm telling you guys I don't know anything. They're like, well, you know, you can give us, just give us a murder. We don't want any crack houses. We don't want any drugs. We want murders, cold hard murders. And if you give us that, just give us a little something, and you can walk out that door right now and go home. But because I didn't have nothing to give them, I went to jail. Now, we sat in jail, what, 4 months? Sat in jail like 4 or 5 months before we even knew what was going on. Like I'm talking about, we knew nothing about what was going on. I didn't know what the evidence against me was. I didn't know anything. For 4 months, we just sat in the county jail. Like, this is my first time being in jail. I have no criminal record. I've been in jail one time before for a couple of days and got out, beat that case. It was the same type of case that they're doing to me now, where they just throw you into something because you're a documented gang member and say, hey, you have everything to do with this because you're from this part of the community. So we sat in there for 4 or 5 months, and then they started telling us, we started kind of getting everything. We doing the prelim. So we started getting a feel for what was going on. Now as we went through it, again, the detectives would take, which they call themselves, what do they call themselves? Gang experts. Which they've never been in the gang. How can you be a gang expert who's never been in the gang before? That makes no sense. So they got up on the stand and testified that we know nothing about these crimes. My attorney asked him, does Mr. Duncan know anything about these crimes or have anything to do with these crimes? He said, no, he doesn't. But because he's a documented gang member, he can be held liable, and that's how we feel. We're gang experts. We know he's an active gang member. When I'm working every day, I'm taking care of my kids. I haven't been in this, I don't even live in the community anymore. But this is where I was raised, so it shouldn't matter. But because of that, I could stand, you know, life in jail. We can sit in jail for life based on me being from a certain part of the community. But, you know, go to show, my son was a straight A student. You know, like 3.8, something like that around there, GPA. When they locked me up, my son had all Fs when I got back home, when I got out of jail. He had all Fs, hadn't been going to school, just totally made a change. He was just like, I don't care anymore. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, what's going on, man? Like, you was doing so good. Like, why would you stop doing what you have, like, you know, doing what you have to do. He was just like, I didn't care no more. They just came and snatched you up like, they're gonna do the same thing to me. You know what I'm saying? And that's the type of effects that this thing is having on families. It's like, you want to help. They say they want to eradicate gangs, but the way they're trying to go about it isn't the right way. The way you eradicate gangs, I want to say, how I feel about it is, you go put money in a community so these kids can have something to do, you know what I mean, instead of hanging out on the street corner. Like football, I want to say Pop Warner football costs $300, almost $400 for the kids to play now. It's like, how many parents in that community have that type of money to pay for these kids to play football? It's like crazy. So I think what Bonnie Dumanez needs to do is put a little bit of money and revenue into these communities instead of coming to snatch our kids up at this young age and say, oh, you could be documented at, what is the age? Somebody documented at like 9 years old. Like they have a 9-year-old documented, so he could be charged with this crime.
On CalGang's database is what they keep track of all the people who are documented as gamers throughout the state of California. They have 151 9-year-olds throughout the state of California documented as gamers.
So 151 9-year-olds, we're talking about babies, can go to jail for the rest of their life for crimes that they had absolutely nothing to do with.
And all they have to do is wait until they're 14.
Yeah.
And under Proposition 21, Penal Code 182.5, they can send them to prison.
My grandfather passed away while I was in jail. I asked my lawyer, can she speak with, the people? Can you speak with the people to try to get me out, at least so I can go to the funeral? Their reply back was, well, this has nothing to do with him. Tell him no hard feelings. This is bigger than him. So knowing I had absolutely nothing to do with these crimes, they wouldn't even let me go bury my grandfather. A man that I've been with for the rest, I'll never get that back. I'll never get that opportunity back. I couldn't console my grandmother, nothing. But these are the type of devastating effects that this penal code is having on our community. And it's only going to get worse if we don't stand up and vote this thing out. We voted it in, so we need to vote it out. You know what I mean? It's going to take us to do it. So everybody needs to start paying attention, because like my brother said, it might not be at your door today, but it will be at your door tomorrow. And that's, my spiel on the situation. So thank you guys for listening.
Can we didn't go through the full 10?
Oh yeah, I kind of skipped with, I'm sorry, a little unorthodox. Subject is known to have gang tattoos. Okay, tattoos. I could have a clover tattooed on me, and they're gonna dock that as a gang-related tattoo. Lincoln Park in today's St. Patrick's Day, actually. Yeah. Yeah. So if the person has on, let's just say you have a skull, but the skull is connected to, it's a gang-related tattoo. No matter even what your reasonings for getting that tattoo, it's going to be gang-related. I grew up on Logan, so I have designed a tattoo of a street sign that Logan and Gwen, those are my cross streets. But I can't even get that tattoo. I'm going to get it anyway, but I'm not going to conform to the system and their corrupt policies. But that's going to be docked as a gang tattoo. I want to demonize the communities. Again, let me just even say this. A lot of people don't understand. Lincoln Park is the name of the community. You got Lincoln High School. You got Valencia Park Hornets, right? The high schools and the Pop Warner team, they both wear green. The high school and the community was there in the 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s maybe. The gang didn't develop until the 70s, right? So then you got this sign, this. So anytime you see a person doing this, even us, it's not even just the police, even us deem it automatically as gang related, because we've been so, conformed into believing their narrative, right? But, so you see a kid in green doing this, they don't think, well, did this guy graduate from Lincoln High School? Did him and his comrades win 3 CIF championships? People represent their community. I represent my community. I'm from the community of Lincoln Park. I'm not from the gang. I'm going to continue to represent my community because I'm proud of where I came from, and I'm not going to make them make me feel like where I'm from is wrong, you know? So, and again, off pictures, you can't document a person off a picture because you said picture tells 1,000 words, right? So these might be alumni from Lincoln, or they might be gang members. I don't know. But you can't deem a person off of a picture. You have to know that individual, and then you know what he represents.
Some people don't know, but MC Hammer was from Lincoln Park. That you guys are probably too young for this, but too legit to quit.
Exactly. You know, so subject has been seen frequently in gang areas. I don't even know what that means. You know, so a gang area. Okay, my grandmother's house, right? They say that's the gang house. They say they in court. They say that is the hub of Lincoln Park. That is where just the master plans are just drawn up, and my grandmother is the madam of Lincoln Park. Right? So they docked a gang house because they say one gang members lived there. The attorney said, well, how can you dock something a gang house, right? So it's a loose policy. Which everything is a loose policy. One gang members live there. Well, gang members don't live there. That's my grandmother's house, so yeah, we frequent it a lot, right? So, but we're the documented gang members, so whatever. Gang members live there. The house is green and white. All right. And yeah, this is in court. This is what these prosecutors, these 10 years of college, you know, 5 different degrees are saying in court. So yeah, we got gang members live there. Gang members, the house is green. That's Lincoln Park, house is green, whatever. My grandmother is the madam, right?
She's documented too, probably.
And gang members frequent that, right? So any place gang members frequent is a gang. So if your liquor store is a gang area, Plaza Geneva Mall, Mission Valley Mall, just everything can be a gang. You have a question?
City College.
Yeah, because, to their policy, because now they can snatch you, they can grab, they can document anybody, right? So then we have, again, subject has been seen displaying symbols or hand signs. We just went over that. Subject has been seen affiliating with documented gang members, right? So everybody in here right now is a documented gang member, so everybody is affiliated with documented gang members.
Aaron, you spoke about it last time about how your girlfriend before has been documented.
Oh, yeah, another thing. Okay, my ex-girlfriend, who's black, right? Was, or is black then. My ex.
Yeah.
She's documented from Lincoln Park because of me, through my police stops, right? Well, now my ex-girlfriend. Last time I spoke, she was my girlfriend. Now, it's my ex-girlfriend now.
His new ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, my new ex-girlfriend. I was like a couple of days ago. She's white. She's been with me on more police stops than my ex-girl, the black ex-girlfriend. But they didn't document her. She's white, right? There's 3,600 black documented gang members, I believe, in San Diego County. I believe there's 4,600 Hispanic documented gang members. There's 191 white. In all of San Diego County. Yeah, tell me about it. Minority groups are going to be deemed as gangs. Because you got the gang conspiracy laws, you got the gang enhancements, you got all these kind of things that are hard to beat. There's no loopholes. You get the white groups, the supremacy groups, they're hate groups, they're hate crimes. If you look up the hate crime laws, their loopholes are about this big.
Well, gangs can be documented too, white people, like in California.
They're not considered gangs.
They're not considered
They're
gangs.
considered white people.
You got the
Which
skinheads.
there is no like white gangs,
Yeah.
but outside of like prison. So like, what are they
But
documenting?
it is a gang, that's true, they might as well call it a gang because they fit under all these categories too,
But
but
they can't because then they could be labeled They fall under those
In
criteria.
California, anything like any like
White gangs?
Lakeside.
Yeah, you got Lakeside skinheads, you got gang like the El Cajon, Peckerwood.
So they call them hate groups so that they
Is that
can't fall
legit?
into
Yeah,
this
so they don't fall under
category.
that
Oh, that's
criteria.
They legit.
Oh, see, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, see, it's just, people really don't frequent those
I
areas.
I
used to live in Bakersfield, and then up there is like the whole thing is all white gangs, almost everything. You
You
have
got the motorcycle, you got the motorcycle gangs, you know, and they're hate crime group, but now they're trying to pass a bill that are making the black and Latino motorcycle groups gangs now. You know what I mean?
Then, according to this criteria, I'm probably a well-known documented gang member because I've lived in numerous gang communities in the 30-some-odd years I've lived in San Diego. I did since a young child. Basically, I get what you're saying. It makes sense, but it's stupid.
Yeah. No, right? You're absolutely right.
If you've been documented, even though you beat the rap, you're still documented, are you not?
Yeah, and look at this, and they say if you go I'll get to you in just a second. And they say if you go 5 years with no police contact, which is almost impossible, 5 years with no police contact, then this computer automatically kicks you off, right? So now you're not documented anymore, which is a lie because my man Brandon went 6 years with no police contact, and they say the reason why he's still documented is because he was living out of state.
Wow.
So
Also, you have to go 5 years in that state
you have to go 5 years, I guess.
to get away from what they say is the gang. You leave the state,
Yes.
start your family, and then because of that, you still are a gang member. So
Because you left.
that's wow.
The detectives went on the stand and basically said and testified to the only way you could be undocumented is to go to prison for life, move away and never come back, or die.
Wow.
He testified to that and said that on court record, it's on court record that he said that. That is the only way you could possibly become undocumented. So you could change your life, become teacher, lawyer,
So those little 9-year-olds,
Anything.
9-year-olds are pretty much
yeah,
for
for the
their
rest
whole
of their
life.
lives they'll be
That's the
documented gang
status.
members because of the step act.
No, they won't. And the reason why I say they won't is
Is there gonna be
because
something about it?
exactly.
You have to.
That's right.
I am going to. I was just really before all this, man. I was just going to be a real estate agent. My goal, my best friend actually, he's studying to become a orthodontist at UC Davis right now. So he's in med school. He's probably documented because of me. He's ready to drop out of school and move because he's so scared because they could have went, well, not anymore now because his case is over with to a certain extent, but they could have put him on our case, right? We're going to get rid of 182.5. That's going to get erased off the books. We're going to amend so much stuff in Proposition 21. They're pretty much going to have to erase that too.
That's right.
Then we're going to attack this. I'm not speaking in numerical order, but then we're going to get rid of this. You're going to have to document real gang members. I'm not against documenting a gang member, or if a person does a crime and he does the time, no problem. Like, you knew what you signed up for, so hey.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, so there's a number of different issues, right, that
Yeah.
are going on kind of with this law. One of them is that you have these laws that are disproportionately kind of impacting African American and Latinos, right? You all just happen to be the flavor of the day that they literally said they were gonna test it out
Yes.
on you so they could start rounding everybody else. Thank God that beginning part has been changed. Then you have this crazy thing that you can make somebody a gang member, just, it's kind of like spin the wheel and, all right, you're a gang member. But I think the larger question also is this, is why should a person who is a gang member, right, be charged with anything different than anybody else that has committed that same crime, right? So a white fraternity boy who sells drugs should get the same amount of time as an African American guy who grew up and was raised in Lincoln Park, right? Why is it different? What is wrong? It's not illegal in the United States to be a gang member.
be a member of any, membership is not, yeah.
That's right, and just the fact that they don't document white people as a gang, even though they're committing the same crimes, doing the same everything, other things, shows that this really is a racial issue,
Yes,
right?
racial.
And even labeling somebody as a gang member is a racial issue, so we can create these ugly, scary boogeymen in our mind that it's okay to hang them, which is the same thing they used to do with regular old African Americans before, but instead of calling them gang members, they would call them niggers before hanging them from trees. So all of these things are super important, but I think we also need to look at how we are told and how people are kind of criminalized and dehumanized under this title of gang members, right?
Gang members, the new black.
Yeah.
That's right.
My uncle, well, probably because I wasn't born, so I don't think any of you guys were born, was involved in the case of a police murder back in the 80s, right? They were acquitted, like 12 years later. The police have admitted to, like me, my brothers, his son, that they come after us because of what happened in the 80s. I wasn't even born when it happened. So
your profile before you even knew anything about it.
me, Brandon, and these 33 people on this case, we are not a special case. We're just the first case. And we were going to set the tone for everybody else, but there are thousands and millions of people who are going through the same thing we're going through in this city and throughout the nation. It's just, we have to start speaking up. And you know what? I'm guilty of this too. Like, there's no way in the world I should have been stopped by the police this many times and I've never filed a complaint. And no excuse, but the reason why I never filed a complaint is because I was pulled over one time, and the police officer told me, we're gonna search this car legally or illegally. So, short call, how you wanna do it? Yeah, you've heard that before too. Yeah, that's what they're saying. I told him I'm not gonna, you know, you're the police, I can't stop you from doing what you're gonna do, but I'm not consenting to this search. They snatched me out my window, right? Throw me on the ground, kind of, you know, rough me up a bit, throw me in the back of the police car. And they just let me go, right? So I told him I was gonna file a complaint. He said, no problem, go ahead, file a complaint, but you have to see me tomorrow. So, like, who's gonna file a complaint when you got police? Because I do have to see this man tomorrow. And he can do whatever he wants, you know? So I never filed a complaint, but we can't. That fear had me facing 56 years of life. You know what I mean? So we have to start filing complaints because we say, well, what is a complaint gonna do? You know, what it does is it goes in this man's file. So he harassed you, he harassed you, he harassed you, and it's all in his file. So when it comes time for promotions, he doesn't get it. And then he might just harass just one too many people, and now he's fired. You know? So we can, they say they want to eradicate gangs, we can eradicate that gang. You know what I mean? But we have to take proper steps. You know, we got to beat them with the pen, because they're beating us with the pen, with these laws and things like that. You know? One, we have to be in agreement with one another, right? So the Bible says two men can't walk together unless they are in agreement, right? But I think we twist that and think that we have to be in agreement with everything, right? So we just have to come together on one issue, and we all know this is wrong. So we agree on that. We don't have to agree on anything else, but we agree on this. And we got to put egos to the side. We got to put everything else to the side, because these are people, these are lives we're talking about. These aren't pawns in a chess game. You know, these aren't just numbers or statistics, you know, things in that nature. So if you can get, you know, because the black population, I believe, is like less than 4% or 4% in San Diego. I think half of that is incarcerated. So we can't do it alone, you know. So you're going to need us, and that's why I said it's not a black issue, it's a people issue. And we got to come together just as people, egos to the side, and attack this problem on multiple fronts. You know, I see there's like 1 billion different organizations in San Diego, which is fine. But I believe those organizations, at least one representative per organization, needs to be able to meet with the other organizations, like a little council meeting in a sense, and come together on one accord and attack. Because if Bonnie Dumanis, Chief Zimmerman, the mayor, whoever, is being attacked on multiple different fronts by multiple different people who are on the same accord. The powers that be are a small percentage. We have the numbers. And the thing is it's like even during slavery, how could you have 1,500 slaves and 3 people being like, but it was the conformity of the mind. They felt like, okay, these 3 people had the power to make the masses do this because it was a psychological thing. But really, the numbers is what can control and what can run, and the government works for us. We don't work for the government.
And there's also some, I'm sorry, there's also some organizations even on campus that are in the process of doing that. And I think student-led movements, if you look throughout history, are normally the movements that actually have some type of effect. And so the Pillars of the Community Scholars Society, which Maria is the co-chair, is very invested in issues that deal with the criminal justice system and supporting people that have been formerly incarcerated on campus. The Umoja Club also, which Tony is the president of, also does a lot of work on campus. So there's even things on campus. Moving forward, like you mentioned, Operation Lemon Drop, I know one of the things that we're going to be working on is training people to actually be able to report, record, and be a part of some of these, when you're at a trolley stop and you see the police who are coming out there and hassling people just for no reason. So there's actually, we can begin to collect information on it and actually have some action. MDS, that's the closest thing to kind of the bus boycotts that we had with Rosa Parks and all of these types of things. But you really need to create ways and systems to be able to work through those issues. So there are some organizations on campus that are connected to some of these larger programs also.
Yeah, and I encourage, join something on campus. Or if not even, you don't even necessarily have to join the organization, but at least somehow assist in that movement. Because every one person is just as important as the next. And if you just sit around and just wait for things to kind of happen, it's never going to happen. And speaking of the movement, the civil rights movement, yeah, you have Martin Luther King and all the other guys, but those were all college students who did that. So the idea of college students just going to class and partying or whatever, that's new. Like the generations that made the change and made things happen were us, and that's why on these cases when you got 33 black men, I believe only 2 or 3 of them are in their mid-30s. Everybody's from the age of 18 to 26. Why is that? Those are the politicians, the lawyers, those are the doctors. I'm talking too much. I know.
That's right.
But
so we just scored what I think is a major victory in the judge throwing out the charges in your case. In capitalizing on that victory, I'm just curious to hear from you, what do you think was the decisive factor in that? Was it just a sympathetic judge? Was it great counsel? Was it the folks who were mobilized downtown? What do you think? So, because the idea is we want to replicate that success.
I think it was a collection of one. When you put pressure on the powers that be, you mess with their money, the elections and all that kind of stuff, they think twice. On the judge's part, I think it was mainly kind of just like having a conscience and common sense. These 9 shootings, nobody's in jail. Nobody's been charged. These are unsolved crimes. So technically, the DA doesn't even know where these shootings even came from. It could have came from any neighborhood. So it's a little bit of everything. Clergy members getting involved, us doing rallies and seeing young people out. Because young people, sometimes we don't have that sense. So we're unpredictable. You don't know what the young people are going to do. You know what I mean? So I think it was a collection of pretty much everything.
So my question is, I'm not really sure what the case entails. I just remember reading a few articles or what the music said or whatnot. But to me, I think of these rappers that we have that are mainstream, like Lil Wayne and Rick Ross, and they talk about violence and they talk about shooting and drugs and mollies and all this really stupid shit. But I don't ever see them being, no one ever goes after them, and they have big money.
Look the other way.
Someone more mainstream.
That wouldn't touch. Yeah, because I mean, they don't want those type of lawyers on this type of case because they know it's BS from the beginning. And if you bring the right type of attorneys in, it's like, you know, you shut it down fast. So they're not gonna never attack nobody like that.
So that leads me to my second question, because when you look at these communities like City Heights and Bee Park, you know, just anywhere that way, a lot of these families don't have money. A lot of them are putting up their houses, you know, to get some kind of money to put on, you know, their family to, you know, have good counsel. So how did you guys?
I mean, we just family. And, you know, a little something put up, but for the most part, your family, you know, come together and help out. And then I've dealt with my lawyer before, so he was kind of like a family friend at the same time. So he was willing to help out too at the time, like, you know, take a little here, a little there. But yeah, that's why, you know, they attack us because they know the money's not there. You know? So
But even
that's what it
to,
comes from.
a resolution, I think, to that problem is taxpaying citizens, right? We pay for the district attorney's budget and we pay for the public defender's budget, right? But the district attorney's budget, I believe, is like 2-point-something%. And the public defender's budget is 0.7. So we pay, as taxpayers, pay more money to be prosecuted than we do to be defended. So we need to find out a way. I don't know the way. That's why I'm going to law school in the fall. You know, we have to find a way where not even to find this money and pull it to the public defender's office, but let's just take the money from the district attorney's office and just even out the playing field. Because if anything, we should be paying more money to get defended.
Right.
You know, but if they won't even do that, we need to find a way to just make it easier, an even playing field, so then it can really be a fair fight.
Yeah.
You know, and we got to stop taking deals. People got to stop pleading out.
Yeah.
They offered me and Brandon probation. We could have been out of this a long time ago.
That's
You
right.
know, but
Probation and a
it would have been a felony. It would have been a felony,
With a strike or no strike?
a strike, and I'll have to register as a gang member.
We'll have,
Right.
what is it, shooting?
You like to have
It would
strike
have been a
right
gang-related shooting at an inhabited dwelling or something. So I would have never been able to get a job.
I think that I've been around for a long time, and one of the reasons that the civil rights movement was successful was because there was media coverage. If there had been no media there,
Real shit.
they would have just been hung and lynched like
Real shit.
the way the Southern blacks had been controlled up until that time, and even in the Midwest and all over the country. The other thing that, I was in the Black Panther Party in 1969, and the Black Panther Party figured out some innovative tactics to make known what was happening with police brutality in Oakland. Namely, they managed to be present when anybody was stopped and arrested, or to make a presence, and to tell a person their rights, and to pretty much stop the police in their tracks. But by doing it, they got a whole lot of publicity.
Yeah.
And they got destroyed because they were seen as too much of a threat and were labeled as the biggest threat to the whole country.
Yeah.
And so I think that for the movement, we need to have solidarity amongst groups, because it's not just a black movement, but we need to use the law, and we need to change the law, but we also in the process have to figure out how to use the media in all of its forms to do actions that, you know, they need something interesting for them to even come out and be there. There's no media here today. I don't know if we invited them, but frequently they don't show or they don't report. The other thing I wanted to mention, the brother back there who teaches Chicano studies, all of those Mexican kids or Mexican American kids who got arrested around those gang killings, they got arrested because of the clothes they wore. And I mean, they were Mexican, well, because they were Mexican and they wore those clothes. Malcolm X wore the same clothes, because that was what was cool in the 1940s, the zoot suits, yeah. So it's the same thing, and it's guilt. This was used against anybody who was a progressive person, a socialist, or a communist who really wanted to change this country in the 40s and the 50s, and it was guilt by association. And that was one of the darkest times in the history of the United States, was the early 1950s, where they had this committee going all around the country, labeling people as communists or fellow travelers, including Lucille Ball. You know, and so they were just going after everybody to make them scared, and that's what this was doing. Final point is, I think you started out talking about how people are getting out of incarceration now because of our recent law, and that some of this you think is in response to the money that was getting piped into, and continues to be piped into the prison industrial complex, right? And so that's a whole other side that we can't lose sight of, is that they're trying to use this to make money off of us.
Oh, yeah. Well, Duncan, I pretty much wear Dunkins. We wear Dunkins because my brother is,
But do they think of it like, they're documented gang members?
Oh, yeah.
Do they think of
It's
it
all
like
for what
that?
you wear, yeah.
of course.
Because it's not a bad brand, you know,
Yeah,
like,
of
and
course.
it's pretty cool because you guys are repping the brand, reaching out to the
Yeah.
community. So, you know,
Yeah.
I think I found that.
They'll make Dunkins a gang in a minute.
Yeah, it'll be labeled, like a Lincoln Park thing, oh, they wear this,
Yeah.
They don't have to tell you, right?
Yeah.
And you have to go down either to your police station in your neighborhood or to this police station and ask, right? But see, then again, I don't want to discourage you guys from doing that, but let's say you're not a documented gang member, right? And you go in there and ask, am I a documented gang member? Then they're gonna be like, well, why is this kid asking? You know? And then they might, now your name is across somebody's desk. Now let's go on your Facebook. Let's see if I can.
Wait a second, do you know Aaron Harvey?
Right, you know, so they might just, and I don't know if they're gonna do that, but, you know, I'm just so distrustful of the police that that's what they would do. Okay, well, give me your name. Yeah, oh, and what neighborhood do you stay in? Oh, let me see. Now they're getting your information. They go on your Facebook. Now they put your name in the system to the police officers, and they will look for you in your neighborhood. And now they got you documented. So it's kind of like a catch-22 in a way. Like, you know.
There's no website that you can go on?
See, that's what they need to. But see, under the, and this is how they get away with it, under the public or privacy, is it the Privacy Information Act or something like that? See, they can't put that out there because it falls. See, they make the laws, but see, that's why we need to do this, and this is why I'm going to law school. I'm not going to law school to be an attorney to represent people in courtrooms. I'm going to law school so I can be sitting down at that table when laws like 182.5 are being written up and developed and trying to get pushed through. And I'm there to say, y'all not doing that to my people. You know what I mean? So, we have to take off the negative influence that we put on each other and our younger people of being police officers. Like, we need more minority police officers. We need more minority district attorneys. We need more, you know, because you can't, this system, you're not going to be able to fight it like this. You can't do it. Look, it's been tried and they annihilate you, right? But if you get put in their position, if you're in the same job as them, then you can make an influence and a change that way instead of fighting fire with fire. Just beat them at their own game and become one, but just do it the right way. You know?
We have our POT Scholar Society meeting every Tuesday at 12:45 at MS 440. Anyone's invited. We would love to have you guys here. But basically, what we're doing is it's like we get together. We get like financial aid help for you if you need help. Just kind of resources, and then we kind of help each other, like kind of influence each other, like going back to the community and making changes in it as well. And I just want to pinpoint that, you know, we talked about before, is that they've done a lot of work to make us hate each other. They don't want the Latinos like the blacks like the Latinos, like conquer and divide. And you guys learned that in school. And what we got to do is, now that that's not working, they pull this Penal Code 182.5 into the picture, we're going to make you guys hate each other. Because if you don't go right on me, guess what? I'm going to hate you if you don't take responsibility for the crime you committed. And that's where we need to start voicing that. We're not going to hate each other anymore. It's not a hate thing. It's about learning to love one another and being good to ourselves and to our communities. You know, you come to school, just don't get your education and leave with it. Get involved. Get in. I mean, we have future lawyers. We have future organizers in this community. You know, I came here from the streets, a recovering addict. You know, homeless with 5 kids at one point. And you know, I'm going out there and I'm trying to organize. I'm involved. I'm getting these kind of things together because this stuff's important. And not just me, I can't do it alone. I need every single one of you to start voicing, start working and making this priority. Because it's our communities, it's our brothers, it's our sisters, it's our mothers and fathers that make it will affect. So, please.